across all socials is It's the BMAC. It's the BMAC.
Welcome back, guys, to another TA Tech News Weekly. I'm your host, TA Tech, joined today by a good friend and creator, Brian. What's up, man?
What's up?
BMAC.
Appreciate you
Hey,
having me.
you went from BMAC to now Brian McDove. I want to ask you, why did you suddenly change your name?
That's a good question. Yeah, so I think I started out with BMACadelic, which just kind of rolled off the tongue. At that time, it wasn't really tech focused. It was just more so, I was doing a little bit of everything, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of skit work, and even some like how-to videos. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I've been on YouTube since like 2007 or 2008. Then I went to college, so I took like a 4-year break basically in there, minus a couple viral college videos, which we won't talk about right now. But I will say that basically after graduating college, I was just trying to figure out what direction I wanted to take the channel in. So I just kind of landed on BMACadelic in the sense that it was kind of like what was going on in my mind and my life. And then people kept calling me BMAC Cadillac. I'm like, well, that's not. I get it. I see how the wording, or rather the spelling, would suggest that that's the name. But I'm like, no, I'm not a Cadillac channel. I don't even drive a Cadillac. I drove a Pontiac at that time. Now I drive a Jeep. So I was like, this is not working. Too many people were pronouncing it incorrectly. And from a branding and a marketing perspective, I just knew that I needed to be able to just tell someone very easily what my channel name is. And BMACadelic sounds good, but when it comes time for someone to actually search that in YouTube, it wasn't that easy. So I think I branded it at that time to BMAC when I had around 100,000 subscribers, and that was all right. But I also felt it was odd because I was consistently, and I still do, see people who are advertising their Buy Me a Coffee links, which is abbreviated as BMAC, Buy Me a Coffee. So I'm like, I was like, why are people? I was getting so confused for the longest time on X/Twitter, and I see people saying like, oh, you could donate to me on BMAC. I'm like, what? How am I getting involved in this? Why are they? Like, how am I the middleman to accept these? Obviously, it was just like me overlooking the fact that it stood for Buy Me a Coffee. But anyway. And then I saw you see a lot of creators doing this where they just turn it into their full name. And I think that's easier just for a marketing perspective. I still have my handle. It's the BMAC, which is nice. I like how YouTube made that change, whatever it was, a year or two ago, where you could have your display name and then a handle. I love that. So now across all social media, it's the BMAC, which is easy enough for people to look up. And then I just have a display name that is my professional name. So I guess I decided to that was the long answer. The short answer is that I basically just needed to, I guess, brand myself as an individual rather than some kind of persona or some kind of brand name that wasn't really what I was going for. So simply put, it was just a branding change, and it will not change again. It will be Brian McDuff, and my handles will stick as is. So just one of those things where you kind of just work through it, you know?
Yeah. By the way, man, it's awesome to have you on again. I had you on, I think, 2 seasons ago, and yeah, times is just flying.
It's been a minute. I know that you have some collaboration ideas, which I will not let the cat out of the bag on that. I want that to be for your own, content schedule. I won't say anything here, but I know I was participating in that last year, and I'm excited to do that again this year. So even though I haven't been on the show in a while, it's still, we still stay in touch, and I always appreciate that.
Listen, I said it to you on DM, and I'll say it to you here. Man, you are one of the kindest, most true creators out there. When you and I started communicating, I think it was when I was doing the Tech Unlock podcast with my friend Benji. And I'm like, he's amazing. Like every time I retweet his stuff, he responds and stuff like that. I honestly think that there needs to be more creators like that. I know that
Just got a delivery from Alexa. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
Things going off all over the place. Something got delivered. But I appreciate that. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Thank you. Yeah, it's important. I mean, we're all creators, but at the end of the day, we're all essentially coworkers, if you want to look at it that way. So I treat anyone who's in the same kind of line of work as I am as someone who I'd be talking to at the water cooler. You know what I mean? It's just you got to keep it real, and you got to be able to treat people the same way like you'd want to be treated. So it's unfortunate, a lot of times in tech, and you could obviously understand this from your time on Twitter X, and
Oh,
it
damn.
could get kind of rough, especially in tech for whatever reason. Just people love to
Yeah.
hold on to. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could be opinionated too. I think I've matured. I used to get into it on Twitter conversations in the past. I kind of just say my
Listen,
opinion as it
there are
is,
just
but
sometimes that you cannot hold back.
it's
You,
true. I've gotten a
you
lot
know,
better. There's times where I think I just, I was, because it's also one of those things where you kind of have to make an opinion in tech because it could go one way or the other. And then you
yes,
do have to stand by it because if you don't have your integrity, your whole brand could come falling down. So, kind of with
exactly.
I guess, a ferociousness in the past, I would kind of defend my takes. And now I kind of just do it in light fun. I think I'm in a good groove where it's just, But anyway, I appreciate that. And same to you, man. You've always kept it real, which is why when you asked me to hop on this podcast, I'm like, dude, I'd love to be able to chat with you for a little while. It's been a while, so happy to, and I
Yeah, man,
appreciate
it
the kind
really
words.
has. Man, so what's been going on? What have you been working on?
Everything and anything. I'm just trying to, as we right before the podcast started to record, I was telling you that I really am just hustling hard on YouTube and really doubling down on that. I think that's the
That's
audience I quote unquote own the most, and I know that audience the best. Still trying to
right.
figure things out across other socials, but just loving really the content creation workflow I have for YouTube right now. So, in terms of what I'm focusing on, it's just more reviews of stuff that is interesting to me. I don't.
Yeah.
There's been times, and I still feel like this sometimes, but there's been times where I feel like I have to review something rather than wanting to review it. So I'm trying to have a nice balance between reviewing products I actually want to review in the tech industry and also throwing in
Right.
there some reviews that my audience wants to see. So it has to be half for my audience, the other half has to be for me. It just so happens that the products that I'm reviewing for me also happen to interest a lot of individuals as well. So just doing a lot of reviews. And then once tech kind of slows down, probably in the January, February months, probably do some more fun content, comparisons, some guides. I really like doing tutorials. It's something I've
Yeah.
done here and there. Probably in shorts
Mhm.
form, I'll start to do that again. I've done it in the past, so I'll probably do that again. But just having fun with it is really what I'm trying to do. And remember that it's a blessing to be able to do what I do as a full time job. But at the same time, understand that I got to enjoy it because if you don't enjoy what you do every single day, you're just not going to have your heart in it, and it's not going to work out in the end. So enjoying
Absolutely.
every day, doing what I do.
Absolutely, man. What would be your advice for somebody starting in 2025?
Mm.
I can't believe I just said that because I can't believe 2024 is
2025,
almost
it's
over.
it's incredible. Yeah, it's. I think I always try to tell myself this too, but anyone who's just starting to start out with creating content, I would say the only obstacle between what you would define as success and where you are when you're starting is time. Because I think YouTube, more than any other social platform, if you just stick with it and you continue to create content, you will succeed. It's just a matter of how you define success. There's individuals who have just a couple thousand subscribers who make amazing content, and I can't speak to whether they're doing it full time or not. But my whole point
Yeah.
is that you can define success within realistic terms, and then as long as you continue to create content, literally it will happen. It's just a matter of how long it will take. So for me right now,
Right.
I always set yearly goals, and I like to organize my goals through that, and it helps me kind of stay on task. I have short term, mid term, long term goals, but that would be my advice: is just to stick with it and to not be afraid of just creating any kind of content. Just sticking with the content creation process and seeing, like I'm doing basically right now, figuring out what you really like to do, also figuring out what works and what sticks, and rolling with that. I probably made close to 50 videos, maybe more, maybe less, in the beginning that were not at all tech related. That was just me trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And those are all unlisted now, so they're obviously not on my channel. But there's nothing more important than just doing it. The hardest video is probably going to be the first video. And from there, it's just a matter of, okay, this worked, this didn't work, and you just continue to get better. So sounds cliche, but to stick with it and have fun while doing it.
It's
But
true though.
I think that's, if you have the mentality that it's just time is your quote unquote enemy, then you're going to be
Hmm.
fine because it's just a matter of kind of pursuing what you want to pursue while being patient in the process and knowing that as long as you stick with that, eventually it will work for you. YouTube is just, and I will
Sure.
say this just real quickly: there's the other algorithms on other social media platforms. I feel like are constantly changing and are still super hard to
Yeah.
figure out. YouTube, I know, changes from time to time, but it's pretty darn consistent and it's pretty easy to understand what will help you succeed on YouTube. They give you
Yeah.
every single analytic you could want, and it's just, to me, it just seems like you're less at the mercy of the algorithm gods, so to speak, especially because YouTube is very much like a search engine. So even if you have content that might not be relevant in the moment, all of my content is created with longevity and evergreenness in mind, meaning it could still be relevant a year down the line. You could put in all that heart and soul into work on Instagram, and it could be gone in a week. It'll be buried, and people just won't really see it like they could if they were searching for it on YouTube. So it's
Right.
YouTube it's still probably, in my opinion, the best platform to really grow on because it's something you own, and they're not messing with the way you get paid at all. So it's been what, $49.51,
Yep.
and it's just you know what you will know very quickly what will work and what won't work, and it's just a platform I think that is difficult to grow on, but a nice level playing field and letting you do you. Hence the name YouTube.
I watch, I've been watching a couple of videos. I don't like really watch it often, but sometimes I'll come across videos on like what you should and shouldn't do, stuff like that, and it's like amazing. And I saw this one video. It's kind of crazy to me how just one setting on your channel can sometimes um, make you, stay back and not push forward into getting more subscribers and stuff. I was watching a video on like what settings you should turn on and off, and there's a lot. It's like wow.
Yeah, I think I deep dove into that a couple of years back. Everything is set up pretty well right now. I think the challenge is figuring out the new features that YouTube is releasing and figuring out how to incorporate that into your content strategy. So for me, for instance, something I've been dabbling with lately is creating more shorts content, but not at the sacrifice of my long form content. So I'm creating shorts content that complements my long form content, but still exists as valuable content in and of itself. Now, with that having been said, that's a perfect example of a new feature essentially that YouTube released, YouTube Shorts, but they still have a little tag on the bottom if you have a relevant video where viewers could click on that and then go to the long form video. That's another tool. People might not realize but that is a lot of potential just right there, that one feature alone. A feature within a feature in that sense that could be so helpful. There's a lot, but I also think it's important for anyone who's starting out to not get overwhelmed with that. Just know the basics, watch a couple videos on the upload process, SEO, learn about SEO, and just roll with it. There's a lot of different components that go into it, of course, which is why it's my full-time job, but it's basically just a something that you will learn every single day, and just number one will always be content, and how to market that content is going to be, in line with that.
How long have you been on YouTube for?
I've been creating content on YouTube since 2007, not on my current channel. It was another channel. That was before they had monetization. That was before Google even owned YouTube, I think. I started out with magic trick videos. So I would quite literally learn a magic trick. At that time, I thought it was cool just to be able to create a video, upload it, and be able to share that video to my grandfather, who was always wanting to see my new magic tricks. So I would, and it just happened to be at the time, a way to also start an audience. And I don't like to live with regrets. I believe everything happens for a reason. But my only regret is that I did not continue to post consistently through college. Because if I had, I could only imagine where I'd be today instead of where I am. But, things happen for a reason, and I don't like to think that way. Hindsight's 20/20, right? But that's how I got started. I started to do magic trick videos. I would upload them, send a link to my grandfather, and it just happened to be people, like I said, tuning in as a result. And it kind of just took off. At that time, I love to give this as a little example because I think it's cool way for me to toot my own horn. At that time, they actually didn't have, I don't think they had obviously channel pages, but they also had rankings. So you could be the top most watched or the top most subscribed on a monthly, weekly, daily, or whatever basis. And I think at one point, with one of the videos I uploaded, that was a magic trick video. Again, it's unlisted, so people who are thinking about going to find them, you won't be able to. They disappeared like a magic trick, but basically, they had, I think it was like top 27 most subscribed one week. I was like, that's insane. Out of the entire world with YouTube, I'm the 27th most subscribed channel at that during that week. Now, that was way back then when there were far less users, of course, but that opened my eyes to understanding the potential of an online video sharing platform. And like I said, I kind of stuck with it. I did a little comedy back in high school, but now I'm back with what I have. I've been on my current channel since 2016, I believe. And I made the decision to go full time with tech around 2018, I believe. Around there? 2018, I think. It's been so long I forgot. But so on YouTube for close to 2 decades now, which is crazy to say out loud. But with my current channel for close to 10 years. It's creeping up on 10 years, so I think so, right?
Wow.
Yeah, 9 years. Next year will be 9 years, I think.
Holy moly. I'm telling you, man, time flies.
Scary. It's very scary.
It really is, man. I have been on and off of YouTube for about maybe 6, 7 years.
Okay.
And, like in the beginning, similar to you, I was just making videos for family and friends who wanted to watch.
Sure.
And then eventually I'm like, you know what, I'm going to make the channel public and see where it takes me. And I think Nikius was one of the first channels that I started watching when I got my Apple Watch. And
he was Apple Watch World at that time, I think.
Yeah.
That was his channel
He was
name.
Apple Watch World. And it was kind of funny because, you're searching for Apple Watch and all of a sudden Apple Watch World comes. And he, at the time, was just solely about the Apple Watch, which I loved. And I still love his content. I'm going to tell you that. But I started out, just watching his stuff and just seeing him talk about his experiences and stuff like that. And then I started watching Taylosive Tech, so many other people, and just seeing this, and I'm like, you know what, like, I think I should talk about my experience as well, and especially, like I said, for my family and friends who have always had the same question. Um,
It's all right. No, you're good. Go ahead.
no, it's all right, man. So, yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this, and I mean, here we are. I met so many great people, and it's just amazing. It really is. But I think that honestly, like, you know, eh, doing this for me anyway, um, I was in a bad spot, and I just started making content and stuff, and I felt so much better once people started watching and communicating and stuff like that. And then going over to Twitter at the time and making friends over there that I could actually relate to, talk about tech and stuff. Because I mean, even to this day, I talk about so many tech things with my family and friends, and they're just like, huh? So having that is just, awesome.
Yeah, I love to hear that for you, man. That's
Yeah,
honestly what I think is the best part about everything that we do is just being able to connect with others who are interested in the same topics, same brands, same products, and to be able to share your experience. I'm glad you said that because that is probably most important. If you could remember as a tech
especially,
creator that that's ultimately what you're doing, then you should be able to still enjoy it and understand that that's where the
exactly.
value is.
And I mean, you said it yourself. You got to enjoy what you do, especially when it comes to reviewing stuff and talking about stuff. You got to make sure that you're into the content that you're making, because why the
Absolutely.
hell are you making it if you're not? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm a firm
Uh,
believer in your heart needing to be in whatever it is that you are pursuing.
ex-
And if it's not, it will not work out in the end. You got to have a reason to stick with it. And all the more reason why it's important, I think, for going back to the conversation we had a few minutes ago, where if someone's starting to start out on YouTube that is all that more important, just to try a bunch of things within the same general niche. Like for me, I think I started
Right.
out with tech videos focusing on the Apple Watch. I kind of was doing it vlog style at that point, and I just threw in a couple
Yep.
Apple Watch videos, and they took
Yep.
off. I'm like, huh. So there's people who are actually interested. Obviously, I knew of all the other tech creators at the time. I just thought I couldn't compete, so to
Right.
speak. And then I started to create this content, and I was getting views. I'm like, okay, so people do care about what I think about these tech products, and this is ultimately what I'm probably interested in. And it took a little while. It was definitely in a transition period. I think for probably close to 2 years, my sub count and my view count was very static. It was not gaining or losing. It was very much just where it normally, where I mean, it was just staying pretty much horizontal. So that was fine. But then I finally turned a corner. I think probably earlier this year when I really started to focus on content and really the value of the content that I was creating. That's something I always try to ask myself. Okay, what is someone watching this for? And a lot of times I have videos that are 14 minutes. And I'm like, I got to cut this down, not because I feel compelled to, just for the sake of its shorter duration, but because there was a lot of things in there that I was putting on. I'm like, this is people don't care about this. They don't care how long I waited on this. They just want to hear about what my opinion is on this product. So I try to focus
Right.
on value for that.
What made you start with tech, and
The
what do you think about it from then to now?
Uh, honestly, the business potential. That's why I did it. It's something I love to talk about, but I could very quickly and easily understand the business behind it, how to get sponsorships, how to review content and earn with affiliate commissions, and
Mm-hmm.
how to go through that entire process. I basically was able to build a business plan around that. Whereas the other content I was creating wasn't really sustainable and it was more lifestyle based, which I still will throw into the channel, hence why I call it film, photo, tech, and lifestyle content. But
Right.
for a long time, it was a question of okay, if I'm doing this vlog style content, first of all, my life on a daily basis is not all that interesting. That wasn't sustainable. And then on top of that, it was a question of how could I earn other than ad revenue from this, and it was
Yep.
very difficult to do so. So then I
Right.
thought to myself, all right, what are my other interests? And at that time, I wasn't really talking about tech. Tech has always been a part of my life. I was always the kid back in
Exactly.
high school who needed the latest Apple release product, and lo and behold, now I'm very fortunate and blessed to be able to basically be in good terms with Apple, where they could loan out a device to me. It's amazing how things turn out that way, but the short answer there is a business. I was able to see and create a business plan behind focusing on tech, which happened to also be what I enjoy talking about and creating content for. So it worked. Everything kind of came together in that sense.
That's awesome. Yeah, I started talking about it and stuff, and I started my channel with the iPhone 10, and man, I just loved it, and like,
Mhm.
the more I got invested in like learning on how um different things worked, software updates and stuff like that. I always say this, I back my first smartphone was the iPhone 4, and at the time I got it for Christmas, um, and bruh, I hated it at first because yeah, I hated it because um, I would get phone calls and people would hear me, not hear me, but I would hear them, and it was so annoying. I remember going to the Apple store the very next day after Christmas, it being jam packed with people returning products, having issues with products, and I'm just like, okay, well, I'm glad I'm not the only one
Mhm.
having this issue. And then I just had other like software related stuff, and that's when one of the guys was just like, this is all software related, and you didn't have to come here. I'm like, oh, okay. So the more and more I had software issues, especially with my new Apple Watch that I got, I just started like YouTubing it. And then, like I said, I ran across Nikias, this one, that one, and, sharing my own stuff now. It really makes me look back and like feel good that, I can help people in that aspect,
For sure.
because like I said, people would ask me, multiple times the same question. So I ended up just saying, you know what? I'm making a video out of it, and you can go back to it whenever you need to.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny, I still do that to like friends and family members. They'll ask me, "Hey, what do you think about this product?" And I will quite literally send them a link to a video. It's just like I'd be glad to talk about this with you, but I do this for a living, and so here's the video. You could watch that, which will probably save us both a large amount of time. So I understand. Yeah, it's and that's ultimately, again, I think if you think about YouTube from that kind of perspective, is you're creating content with value or purpose or whatever that is for you. It doesn't need to be like a how-to or tutorial video or even a review, which is why vlog content is popular.
Yeah.
It's almost like escaping and joining a
What
friend
was
for
your
the day. As long as it's valuable, that's what matters.
Yeah. What was your first smartphone?
Great question. It was actually I don't know if you consider the LG Voyager, which is way back in that was
Yes. Yes.
2008, maybe. I don't know if you'd consider that a smartphone, but it did have the full QWERTY keyboard. My first
Yep.
actual smartphone was a BlackBerry, and it was a BlackBerry Storm,
Ah, dude.
the second generation, where the whole screen clicked. I loved that phone, but
So going back to that real quick, I was obsessed because at the time there was a time that you kept seeing people with BlackBerry,
hmm.
no matter where you turn, and I'm like, my first smartphone should be a BlackBerry. And then my friend convinced me to get the iPhone 4,
Hmm.
and that was like. And then I went to Samsung for a year. Hated that.
God
Uh,
bless you. At that time, that would have been
now
rough.
I'm back to Apple and staying. I am
At that
done.
point, it was, yeah. Well, also at that time, the different OSs, why I say that mostly is because the OSs at that time were so different from one another. There's a lot of
Oh my
similarities
god.
now, but back then, switching from any OS to another OS would be quite literally like relearning an entire
Yeah,
computer.
seriously. I think you'll agree with me when I say all phones nowadays will look the same. The only thing to differentiate, um, and that's like take it with a grain of salt, is the OS.
Mm.
Like especially on Android, a lot of phones have adopted the pinhole design, cameras, and it's like wow. Um, but I mean, yeah, they they do kind of look dif- different, but still, like there's so many that work the same, and especially with iPhone, I feel like they need to change it. And I kind of wish they would change it more um, when it comes to the baseline versus pro models.
Mm. That's a great
You know,
point. Yeah, we could probably spend an entire hour talking about that in particular. I never thought I would be the guy who prefers Android over iOS. I was always the Apple kid, always the guy who was Apple to the max. And then I said for the longest time, if I were to try an Android, it would be a Pixel device. And I guess Google read one of my tweets at that time because they started sending out review units of the Pixels to me. And I instantly fell in love to the point where probably I will
dude.
still say that I use an iPhone as a daily driver. But those Pixel phones now, I love them.
No, listen, I say the same thing. Are we brothers from another world or something? Like seriously, because you and I are so the
Yeah,
same.
we have the
'Cause
same outlook on many things. Absolutely.
I say it, I say it all the time. If I were to get an Android, it's gonna be a Google
Hmm.
Pixel. I had the Pixel 4 as a secondary phone for a little bit, and I loved it. I
Yep.
mean, having it, even though it wasn't getting software updates and stuff like that, bro, like it ran so smooth.
Mm. Such a
Um,
fun phone to use. It really
it
is.
it
The
really is.
haptics too, amazing on it. It's just I've been a huge Pixel fan since it basically landed in my hands. I think with the Pixel 4 is when I
Yep.
first started to be able to try out the Pixel experience. It's amazing to see how far it's come. But
Yeah.
if it wasn't for me editing on a MacBook and being able to airdrop files, I'm locked into the ecosystem because of that. If it wasn't for that, I would have the Android as my daily driver. I often take it with me just to have it with me for anything I could get done on it because it's so fun to use. But for
Right.
accepting phone calls and text messages and the normal email day-to-day work, still use my iPhone for that. But luckily, the nice thing is in my line of work, I could still review products even, and this is kind of where I've grown from. And like, for instance, if there's someone out there who's watching this right now who wants to become a tech creator, just start with the tech you currently have. You don't need to review the next tech that is coming out. I've just progressed to a point now where I know enough about all these tech products and brands and all the tech that goes into it and how it all works, where I could review a Samsung phone, for example, and
Hmm.
do my due diligence in trying it out for a week or two and
Right.
being able to review it and actually have things to say about it. Whereas in the past, it was so foreign to me, and so I'm lucky to be able to have spent all this time with all these devices. And the more I do that, the more I know, and that's why I'm starting. I think in the coming months, I'm going to be doing more comparison videos because a lot of people want to know this versus this, and I have the experience to be
Yes.
able to create that content. So that's what I'm planning on. But it's yeah, it's
Going
amazing to
back,
see.
going back a little bit, what did you start off YouTube with as like your equipment that you used?
So I think I had a Canon T3i DSLR camera, which I got probably back in 2014, I want to say, probably about a decade ago. And I made a couple dozen videos. It didn't have autofocus, but I made a couple dozen, probably like 40 to 50 videos on that. My first 40 to 50 videos was with that camera. I was
Wow.
originally recording audio on that camera, it was horrible.
Yep.
And then I switched to a Zoom H2, I think it's called. I still have it over here. Portable video or portable audio recorder with a lav mic attached to it, and I would record my audio separately. And I ran with that for several years. Then, when I finally had some money to upgrade, I switched to the Sony A6500, which was my main camera. I still love that camera. In fact, I just switched over it back to being my overhead camera. And
Oh,
I waited for several years for my beloved Sony A7S III to come out, and I
mm-hmm.
love that camera. It's the one I'm using right now for this live stream. It's everything I ever wanted, and it was worth the wait. I know there's the FX3, I think, which is very
Yep.
similar, and they're probably going to go. I don't know if we'll ever have an A7S4. I don't see anything right now, to be honest, that I wish this camera currently had that
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't for my needs, so I'm cool with it. But anyway, long story short, then I graduated the A7S III. I've had that for several years. Absolutely love it. I just upgraded with different lenses, and then I record everything on a Zoom H6 with some Rode and Shure equipment. This is the Shure SM7DB. I always use this for podcast style content because it makes my voice sound like a DJ, or at least I like to think it does. And for my videos,
That,
I don't necessarily like the look of a microphone in front of me for my videos, and I move around a lot. I'm very animated in
yeah.
my recorded content. That's when I have
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
a
I love
that's where I have a boom mic at the ready, which is off frame but pointed right at my mouth. So yeah,
it.
it
Oh,
works
that's
for me. I am thinking maybe in the next couple of months trying out a couple of videos with a wireless mic system.
oh, okay.
It might sound a little bit better and less echoey. Unfortunately, the studio that I've set up down here I love it. It's amazing, but it's not very acoustically treated. So there's a little bit more echo than I personally would prefer. And I think if
Yeah.
I had a lav mic, it might cut down on that a little bit. But anyway, that's the equipment I roll with. But the nice thing is, before all that, like I was telling you earlier when I was making those Magic Trick videos back in the late 2000s, that was literally all those videos I was making at that time were filmed on the iSight camera of my MacBook that I had, and then edited on iMovie and uploaded through that. Man, that thing sounded like a spaceship taking off. I was doing way too much for that MacBook at that time to be able to handle. But that's,
What?
in these days, the iPhone cameras, the smartphone cameras, it's insane the quality that they
Yeah.
provide. You
Yeah.
could have a whole YouTube channel literally
Dude,
created on one device if you wanted to. It's amazing.
I'm recording with my iPhone 15 Pro. Um, I have another iPhone as the camera here. I'm not really sure you can tell,
I didn't
but
know. I did not know that, which is a good thing.
I'll let you guess on which one because I will say it is a couple years old.
I'm gonna guess it's the SE,
Mm-mm.
so it's got to be the 12.
It
You got me at
Older
a
than
loss now.
older than that.
Oh, is it the 10?
10R.
10R. There you go. Oh, that's amazing, actually. The fact that you cannot tell. That's kind of a testament to where we are in the video capabilities of phones now.
Seriously.
It's
Seriously.
definitely plateauing. It's amazing to see what Apple is doing with giving us even more leeway, which I will always be a fan of. I will never be someone who's like, "Oh, we don't need that feature. Why are we putting it in there?" Like I will never advocate for features to be taken away. Features are features. If you want to use them, you use them. Now that's not to say that if they're putting in something you're never going to use, like for instance, I don't know that the camera control button was all that necessary. For instance, that's a
I
whole
was
other
about to ask
conversation.
you.
But
I was about to ask you
I
about
will
that.
say, like that's not something I'll argue against. If it's the same price, I'm cool with that. There's a whole lot that goes into it. It's when you're paying for features you aren't going to use where it's an issue. But if things stay the same and you're just getting more, I'm all for that. But in that having been said, it's amazing that you're on a 10R because I would not have guessed that. It looks great. At least from this viewpoint right here, I'm looking at you. It looks solid quality, which is amazing.
Yeah, man. I'm like impressed. I'm really impressed. And I don't know, but I think Riverside helps with that too.
Could be.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. Looks good on
uh,
this end, so they're doing something. Both of them are probably doing something right.
yeah, I've always used StreamYard, um, but recently they upped their prices. I don't know if you've ever used
Oh yeah, in the
StreamYard,
past.
but they recently upped their prices, and my wallet is broke.
Hmm.
Like
Especially with tech,
my
man.
my wallet cried when I saw that.
I
I
don't
was
blame
like,
you.
yeah,
I don't blame you. I just recently reviewed all the stuff that I subscribe to, and I nearly had a heart attack. Between HBO, Netflix, all the premium
dude,
tools I use for my content creation, that's a little different because I could, most of the time, even Chat GPT, I wanted the premium Chat GPT. It's 20 a month. Like, what am I doing? That's crazy. It's just so expensive
that's
with
awful.
everything available to us now. So I
I
don't blame you
can't.
at all.
I can't. I try to go the free route as much as I can
Yeah, as you
because
should.
you know, first of all, I'm just starting off now. I'm still very very small, um, and like I don't need the latest and greatest. And I personally don't think, you really don't need the latest and
I
greatest
agree.
to pull off good content and stuff like that. And for general use, like I always say, if your device is updating still, keep it.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
uh, that's my mentality. As soon as my device stops updating, I don't care if it's working or not working. As soon as I know it's not going to update anymore, it's gone.
There you go.
Because honestly, I don't know how you feel about this, but for me, I think that software updates, no matter what device it is, they're always needed, and very important. Like I see people saying, "Oh, it's a hassle trying to update my device, keep up with my devices
Hmm.
all the time, trying to update them. Each update makes the device slow, this, that, the other." And I'm just like, bruh, I mean, yes, you're right, but at the same time, you're protecting your device, essentially, and um, just trying to keep it for longer. I mean, yeah, in a way, these companies do make it so you buy a device and keep it for a shorter amount of time, but I still think and still believe that these updates are important, especially for security reasons. I mean,
Absolutely.
dude, even nowadays, it's so freaking crazy. Um, all the cybersecurity stuff that you hear now, it's like, what?
I've always taken this seriously, but I really took it seriously. I ended up buying hardware keys and everything that protected me even further when I saw John Prosser get his channel hijacked. And I thought, if
Yes.
John got his channel
Yeah.
hijacked that quickly and easily, and the story he told of how that happened was scary to the point where I said, okay, I'm going to take a week or two to completely assess everything that I have set up. And
Yes.
I got hardware keys and I should be good. I take it seriously, you know?
You got to. You got to. And especially uh, larger creators like you guys that are doing this for a living,
Correct. That's the scary part when you think about it that way.
yeah, dude. Yeah, because everything could get taken away in like 2 seconds.
Wild.
It's
Yeah.
awful
All the
how.
more reason to
Uh,
have barriers set up and make sure the
I mean,
security is
I even
just as important as the content, right?
yeah, I even say like my friend got her Facebook hacked the other day, and she lost everything because she couldn't even get back in and save things, which was a bitch, but whatever. Like honestly, just protect your stuff as much as you
Two
can. Like
factor authentication, hardware keys is even better. I
yeah.
think that, with the new passwords app that Apple has, that's even better now. They started to
Oh
recognize
yeah.
because even two factor authentication through text authentication is not secure. That's actually how I think John had his channel hacked. Someone from the
Oh
Verizon store somehow was able to spoof his number and still receive text messages, or they had something to do with a SIM card. I can't remember the details, but long story short is
yeah.
that he basically had someone at the Verizon store who maybe recognized who he was, whatever the case may be, and
Yeah.
somehow was able to have access to his text messages so that when they tried to log into to his YouTube account, to his Google account, it authenticated it through 2FA, which they were able to authenticate because they had access to their number. Which is why I think people don't realize the two most important things, I think, if you have two factor authentication set up in
Especially now in
email.
the holiday season.
Exactly. The two most important things I think are going to be email and your phone number. Guard
Yep.
those two things. Email probably even more so. I think it's less likely you'll get hacked with 2FA through text messaging like John did, but sometimes if I'm helping out my mom or my dad, sometimes the password they have set up for their email is so simplistic. I'm like, you don't understand. This is the mother load. If someone wants to reset your password through any other application or any other website that you have an account with,
Yep.
9 times out of 10, it's going to do that through email. And if they have access to your email, it's basically like having access to your house. It's the way you can
Yeah.
look at it.
Exactly.
It's
Though.
like having a
Exactly.
key to the house because that's where it
Dude.
all is funneling through. It's a scary thought, but yes, that's why all
Yeah.
the more reason why two-factor authentication as a bare minimum for any and all possible sites that offer it, or any apps, any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. I don't ask this often, but any questions for me?
I think you covered a lot, which I'm happy. I tried not to hijack the conversation because there's a lot of questions I would ask you about, and I wanted you to run the show. But I do want to quickly cover it because we brought it up quickly. What are your thoughts
Yep.
on the camera control button on the new iPhone?
Uh,
Putting you on the
that's why.
spot here. The tables have
That's why I
turned.
still have the iPhone 15.
That makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
Um. I just like I seen videos about it and I see people talking about it. I think it's a cool concept. I think that yeah, you know, especially for somebody disabled like myself, that sometimes you want to get a quick picture and sometimes the app doesn't want to open when you want it to have that open right away with that button I think is really really cool. However, it's still it's still complicated,
Mm,
and especially for non-techies. Like, how are you going to learn how to work with this? You know what I mean? Like, how often are you going to actually use this?
hmm
You know, and especially for us techies, like, yeah, we're using it because it's new, but down the line, a couple months from now, it's gonna be like nothing to us.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right. Yeah,
So
I
like,
think that's a good way of looking at it, and that goes back to our conversation from earlier, where again, it's not something I would argue against, even if it's not something I'm using consistently. I would never argue just to take it away. If
right?
don't upgrade for it, is I think what I more or less said in my review for the
Yeah,
iPhone, but basically it's there if you want to use it. And I'll just say, for me personally, I think the two biggest potential uses for it are third party uses. So there are already like different
yeah,
apps, different third party apps that utilize the camera, and they're able to cycle through different presets or different settings through that camera control button, which is similar, obviously, to what the native camera app does. But I think
yeah,
that the third party integration and the third party API that the camera control is opened up to be able to be developed with is where the real potential is. Having said that, and I don't know if this is going to work, but I wanted to do a real time demonstration here to see if I could get this to actually Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I wanted to show my new favorite feature is using the camera control button to press and hold, and it actually brings up Apple Intelligence, which allows me to, if I'm at a restaurant and I don't understand like for instance, last night I went out with my mom for sushi, and I didn't end up getting it because I was like, actually, I don't want sake, but I was considering getting sake, and I had no idea what any of the sake meant. All I knew is I wanted it to be cold and not hot. And I quite literally just took out the phone, and I used the camera control button. I pressed and held it, which opens up the Apple Intelligence lens, so to speak. And I just took a picture of the menu, and then it goes to ChatGPT, and I basically asked, I said, which one of these are hot, which ones are cold, and it went down the list of 4 sakes that they had and said, this one's hot, these 3 are mostly served cold, this one's chilled, and if you wanted something, this one is almost always served lukewarm. I was like, well, there it is, there's my answer. Something that I would otherwise have to go through Google and type in. If it's just something I could visually show, I'm actually more psyched up about that than I am any other use for it.
And I mean, does that need something specific on iPhone 16 lineup? Because I'm kind of like surprised that we don't have it on iPhone 15 and older.
Yeah, I'm assuming it goes through somehow the hardware. I'm assuming it's using the Bionic chip in there, or whatever. I lose track of what it's called. I literally have to look at my list to see the whole naming of how they started to name these chips. It's crazy, but and I unfortunately I can't change the camera angle while we're recording. But it's very helpful in the sense that quite literally you just would. Let me see if I could do this to show close up. You just press and hold on it. And then it opens up Apple Intelligence like that, which is pretty cool. And then from here, that's where you could take a picture, reverse image search, or ask a question. I think that is where it's most helpful because that's.
I was just gonna tell you should take a picture of yourself
and see what happens. We could try it. I don't know if this could be dangerous doing it live on this recording, but let's see what it comes up with. All right, we'll demonstrate it live for your viewers. So I press and hold that. That's Apple Intelligence. This is hard to do. I'm going to attempt to take I think I could just snap it with the camera control button. That would make sense, right? All right, here we go. Okay, so it took a picture, and then I would just sit there, and then you can see it just kind of stayed like that. Now I'm going to ask a question. I'm like, who is this creator? I doubt it's going to come up with this because I'm not that well known. But let's try this.
I think you are.
Who is this YouTube creator? I'm typing it in. So we'll see.
I type you in on Google sometimes and I find you.
That's good. That means the SEO is working. All right, let's see what. Okay, now I sent it as a question. It's working with ChatGPT. It does take a minute or two, which I guess is to be expected. I think it's still considered in beta, so I will not rank on it for that, but it is.
I mean, I love the new Siri and the new design.
Oh yeah.
I just wish I had a couple more things, and I know that like there's going to be a lot more once 18.2 drops. Hopefully next week. I'm hoping.
Yeah, we're due, right? I usually am on top of the schedule. Let me try this one more time because I got rid of it by accident. What'd you say?
Are you on betas or are you?
I am. Usually I will download the betas if I know it's stable enough. I take that risk, but I go into it knowing and I always post this on Twitter and X.
You do it on your main device?
I do. I take that plunge. Yes. If I see that there are not that many bugs. I mean, listen, here's the thing. I don't use the iPhone for my daily workflow. If I was using it for content to stream from or to film with, I wouldn't. I never install the beta on my desktop or my laptops. That's something I never do. But on the watch or the iPhone, I will, just because it's not going to completely break the device. Apple would not release a beta that's going to completely break the device, knock on wood.
Right.
But it's also, I do it knowing it's not going to be a smooth experience because I want to see the features and become familiar with them so that by the time others have it, I'm ready to answer the questions for them for it. That is my excuse for doing it. However, I do it fully understanding and being fully aware that I have no right, and I always post this on Twitter, on X, that anyone else who's on a beta either, you cannot complain. Like, that's the one rule. You could be upset, you could say it's buggy, but you cannot complain and be mad at anyone but yourself for taking that risk and downloading a beta, especially if it's on your main device. So, I mean, we're at a point now where I think it's been I cannot remember a super buggy, and people are gonna be like, "Are you kidding me? This was super buggy." I personally cannot remember a super buggy beta iOS release in the last several years, just because I think it's been minor changes from major release to major release. It's not like back in the day where like iOS 7 was completely different from iOS
Oh,
6.
dude. That was
This did
awful.
not. This I think my photo went away. Hold on, I had my VPN on, so I think it got confused. I'm going to snap this again real quick. Let's see if this works. Oh, I could reverse image search. Oh, it went away again. See, I'm pressing the wrong buttons. Hold on. I'm going to reverse image search and see what it comes up with here. Instead of asking who is this, maybe if it searches Google. Nope, I don't come up. That's okay. That just means I got to work harder. It's putting
Wow.
me as who's it? These are creators I don't recognize. But no, I'm not too surprised about that because usually that's interesting though. Anyway, even though it's not recognizing me, if it was something on a menu or even if it was like a lens and I wanted more information about it, I've been in the grocery store before and I didn't know like what was it like an ingredient list and I was like, is this healthy or not? You could snap that and like based on what Chat GPT thinks, Apple Intelligence through that camera control button will be able to. I think we'll be able to tell you basically whatever you're asking, which I think is where the real potential is. So my answer is that it's more so the things that they didn't market it for, but are going to be available now in the future and with third-party apps. I will be at this point with that update alone. I will be upset if the camera control button ever went away because I do use it specifically for a shortcut into the lens section of Apple Intelligence. What's the name for that? There's like a name, right? It's not Apple. Whatever the Siri visual intelligence.
Yeah, visual intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah, visual intelligence. I can't
Yeah.
talk.
Apple Intelligence, visual intelligence. Say that one 10 times fast. But
Yeah, exactly, right?
but that like I use it for that, which I think is cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It all depends. It all depends on how you're going to use it. You know.
Exactly, exactly. Um, well, man, thank you for joining me today. I don't know, I know you said that you had limited time, but I do appreciate you taking the time, man. It's always fun to talk to you, and I always catch your videos, and I love your way of being your hypeness.
That works. I appreciate that, and
Bro,
you've always
man,
been a great
listen.
supporter for years now. Since probably when I originally met you, I think it was through Twitter, and then we followed
Yeah,
each other's content. You've always been supportive, and I greatly appreciate that. So,
I
thank you. I'm
listen,
glad you
man.
like it.
I give credit where credit's due, and like I said, it, from my standpoint, I think you and I have a lot, a lot of thoughts and stuff in common,
For sure.
and like I'm glad to have a friend like you.
Yeah,
Like
likewise, man.
this.
I'm glad to have a friend like you. You know, you're supportive, and
You know,
it's awesome to be able to talk about these things with someone
I
else.
I don't want to give out locations, but somehow I think you're kind of close to me.
I'm in
So,
Connecticut.
yeah, that's what I thought. I'm in Mass.
Oh wow!
Uh,
I thought for some
yeah,
reason I thought you were in New York. I don't know why I thought that. I guess I just assume
no,
anyone who's in this general area is from New York.
no.
So that's cool, man. Oh yeah, you're not too far away. We'll have to figure something out. We'll have
Yeah,
to collab
definitely,
in
man.
something, or
Yeah,
even at
no,
the very least, just hang out for a little bit for sure.
dude, I go to the casino in Connecticut all the
Which
time.
one?
So, Foxwoods,
Oh yeah, okay. Well, there's
you
only
know,
two, right? And then there's Springfield
yeah,
too, which they have there now. I don't know if you've been to Springfield, but
no,
yeah, it's not
no,
that great. I mean,
no,
I like Mohegan and
no.
Foxwoods much more. But yeah, I
Yeah,
was there. I was there last week and then the week before that because Dave Matthews Band was performing there. So anytime you're heading down to the casino, let me know. It's about half hour, 45 minutes from me. So if I'm free, I
oh
would definitely
shoot.
swing down there and say what's up.
Dude, I've been wanting to go. There was a show, um I think it was in October. I don't know if you like comedy. I don't know if you know Gabriel
Oh
Iglesias.
yeah, yep.
I don't know if you watch him or not, but I love his stuff. I watch Mr. Iglesias on Netflix. I thought that was the funniest show ever. And he was, I think it was Foxwoods Casino.
Hmm.
for a show, and I was dying to go, but I had something else that day, and I was so mad, because it's like the one time that this person is around
Hmm.
your area or semi
Sure,
around your
sure.
area, and it's like wow. But dude, it's awesome. But no, I've been to like two or three casinos, and like
Yeah, so I don't even gamble. I'm not a gambler. I just love going to the casino for the food or the entertainment. And
Mhm.
yeah, actually, it's funny. One of my favorite restaurant bars in Connecticut is actually at Mohegan. It's called
Uh-huh.
Comics, and it used to be a comedy bar, and there would be a comedy room in the back. And then they opened it up, and now it's like a roadhouse too. So they have like a bull ride that you could ride in there too if you wanted to. They have a dance floor. They have just tables where you can just hang out and sit at and get some good food. Anyway, that is where I
Yeah.
often go, and they have some comedy shows there. But I don't watch a lot of stand up, but I've been trying to, if I recognize a comic's name and they're
Dude.
touring, I'll
Yeah.
try to go to a show. It's just a fun, laid back show. You know you're going to walk out of
It
there
really
without your ears
is.
bleeding. Sometimes some of those concerts could be so loud, man. My ears are
I've
ringing.
I've never I've never been to a comedy show. This past summer, I went on a cruise with my family, and there was a couple of comedians one night, and I'm like, you know what, let's do it.
Mm.
Me and my sister and my brother-in-law went, and at the same time, it's just like, damn, because especially if you're in the front row
Oh
and they
goodness. Yeah, yeah,
pick
yeah.
on you,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bruh. I saw people getting picked on. I'm like, well, I'm going to the back row.
Yeah, yeah,
Bye.
you subject yourself to that. Yeah. It's I actually prefer that's not necessarily true. I don't know. You have smaller comedy shows at smaller venues, and you
Yes.
have massive arena shows. I went to Tom Segura probably back in April, I think it was, here at Mohegan, and I thought it was hilarious. I went to Theo
That's
Vaughn at a smaller, not a small venue, but a smaller venue,
mhm.
and it was awesome to see him in person, but I didn't enjoy that as much. No offense to Theo, I think he's hilarious as a person. I just think he's a better comedy podcaster than he is a stand-up performer, in my personal opinion. However,
Right.
I also went to smaller shows where Chris DiStefano is actually a comic I've been following for several years. This is a long story short. I was on an MTV show probably close to 10 years ago. It's called Guy
Oh,
Court. It was a spinoff of the show Guy Code. And if you had a buddy who violated Guy Code, you could bring him to Guy Court. And they had all the same comedians on Guy Court as lawyers, as Donnell Rawlings was the judge. They had Melanie Iglesias as, I think, what is it called? The bailiff? Is that what the word is? Anyway.
yeah.
And so my lawyer that represented me in my case, so to speak, was Chris Stefano. So I kind of had a connection through that. I thought he was hilarious. And to
Okay.
this day, I call him, hey, that was my lawyer on Guy Court. But I go to his shows now. No chance he would recognize me. But I go to his shows, and I love his humor too. And he usually has smaller
Yeah.
venues. And sometimes the smaller venues like that are, it's just a different kind of, because they'll interact with
Yes.
the audience. It's a different kind of show. So I don't
Yeah.
watch a lot of stand-up comedy on Netflix per se, but anytime, like I said, anytime there's a comic coming around in town whose name I recognize, I'll try to snatch
Yeah.
up tickets. I think I do have Cat Williams tickets for May coming up, and
Okay.
I bought those probably close to 4 or 5 months ago. I got those like in a year in advance because I'm like, that's going to sell out, and I've always thought Cat Williams was hilarious, so that's going to be a great show. I think that's in Hartford, Connecticut. So, but yeah, comedy
Yeah.
shows are great, man. And I could relate too
I
because
love
I thought for a short period of time, when I was first starting on YouTube, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a stand-up comic because that's kind of what my
it.
content was. Luckily, or for better or for worse, I didn't go down that path.
My friend has a channel now. He's in Cali, and he has a whole channel about cars. But at first, he was throwing stuff about comedy, this, that, the other, and
Yeah.
I think going back talking about YouTube, I think honestly, um, it's complicated
Hmm.
to throw just anything out there. I think you really got to niche down, and
Yeah, well,
I
yeah.
told him and do it now. In months, he went from like 500 to like now 3K something.
There you
And I
go.
was like,
Yeah. I
whoa.
mean,
I told you. I can't do it myself. I can tell other people to do
I
it. I
feel the
can't do it
same way
myself.
sometimes, man. I feel like I could tell, I could sometimes exactly tell others the right moves to make, and I will maybe not necessarily do that myself. And
So,
I just say that because sometimes I feel like maybe I should niche down to just Apple products, and it's like, no, I wouldn't want to do that for me personally. But that goes back to the discussion we kind of opened up this podcast with, where you got to love what you do. Because if you don't, that's in a situation where I would feel kind of cornered into just creating Apple content when I still love the Pixel phones, for example. So it's, niching down is relative. Niching down for me was not creating comedy videos anymore. I was standing up, and one of my videos that was most successful was me literally talking about, I think, Tinder as a dating app, and I just cracked a bunch of jokes about it. Yeah. It's obviously not on my channel anymore, but niching down for me was obviously just focusing on tech and not stand-up comedy, like, in that sense. So niching down is relative, but it'll work. And it just basically tells YouTube, which is also why just focusing more on like these review content for tech products that I've doubled down on this year, tells YouTube what your channel is about and who to serve your content to. So it's one thing to be a variety channel, but it's a lot harder to grow a variety channel than it is a channel where YouTube knows exactly what it's about.
Right. Well, man, like I said, it's great talking to you, and I
You
really
as well,
hope
my friend. Yeah.
get back to talking to you soon. I'm glad that we finally had some time. I almost canceled, like I said, last minute stuff, but here we are, man. But yeah, man, thank you for joining. And where can people find you if they still
Appreciate it, man. I always appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to the secret collaboration video I think you're planning in the next couple of weeks here. I won't say any more than that. Depends on when people are watching this, when that's going to be released, of course. But just you could look me up on all social media, Brian McDuff, or my handle across all socials is It's the BMAC. It's the BMAC. See, I made it that so that I could say that, and it's people will remember it. So, but other than that, yeah, I'm on.
Man, you should have your own intro and like that be your intro.
I did DJing. I DJ'd in college to pay the bills, and I still have my DJ drops. It's quite literally, it says DJ BMAC. Like, I would do pretty good at creating those voiceovers for someone, but they're on my hard drive somewhere. If I could find it, I would bring it up real quick. But it's funny. Every so often, like if I'm at a party or something, I'm hanging out with some buddies, and I'm the one putting on the music, or we're driving somewhere. I think it's on my phone somewhere. I'll just drop a DJ BMAC. So maybe I'll put that in one of my videos just to throw people off. Be like, what was it? What was that?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, great.
Thank you for joining once again. And guys, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.